another At the Table with Susan and Lucy. We are so thrilled to be here today with all of you, and we thank you for sharing your time with us. As you know, Lucy and I are co-chairs of an organization, the American Italian Food Coalition. It's a coalition of about 450 producers, manufacturers, creators of Italian goods dedicated to make sure that the American population always has access to their high quality wonderful food. And so what an important mission that you join with us today. Now, we are so excited, and I know I can speak for Lucy, to have as our guest today one of the most outstanding people that lives with us in Washington, D.C., an important part of the incredible Italian-American relationship that we have. So I am just honored, thrilled. There's not another, I could take up the next 20 minutes just using every adjective that I feel in my bones right now to welcome the Italian ambassador to the United States, Mariangela Zappia. Mariangela Zappia.
Thank you. And thank you for the accent. It's
Marian,
the right one.
Mariangela Zappia. How's that?
That's perfect. And Susan, Lucy, really, it's a great, great pleasure to be with you today. I like very much At the Table with Susan and Lucy. I have been listening to some of your podcasts. It's very, very nice. And you have such an important mission as really the energy behind the American Italian Food Coalition. A great association that really helped us a lot to make understand to the American public what food means for Italy, for our culture, for our communities abroad, for our economy. So all this is really very, very important to us. And so I cannot but starting by thanking you both, of course, the association, but also you, the coalition, but also you, Susan and Lucy, for what you do personally for that. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, Lucy is going to introduce you. So I'm going to say, Lucy, you should take a very deep breath in order to get all the magnificent achievements that you are going to be talking about with regard to introducing the ambassador. Lucy.
Thank you. And Ambassador, bear with me because our audience needs to know about your incredible credentials. Mariangela Zappia is the sitting Italian ambassador to the United States. She has worked in public service since 1986, including as Italy's ambassador to the United Nations, to NATO, and as the diplomatic advisor to the Prime Minister of Italy. She has been honored as a Commendatore of the Order of Merit of the Italian Republic and earned the Medaglia d'Oro, Political Science and International Relations from the University of Florence. She has a master's degree. I should have mentioned that the Medaglia d'Oro is from the Fondazione Marisa Bellisario. And so today, she is with us to discuss a number of very important issues that are important to Italy and also important to the United States. Ambassador, welcome and thank you for being here. My first question to you is, how did you decide diplomacy and international relations were your calling?
Well, thank you for this question, Lucy. How I decided? Well, you know, in life, things come, and then maybe you realize afterwards why you made some choices. I think what I wanted was to serve my country. I had a great example in my family. My father, who was a military, and he spent his life serving the country. And I think retrospectively that I chose to do the most similar thing. The diplomatic career is a little bit like the military career. You serve and you progress in the service to your country. And at the same time, I knew quite early on in my university years that I wanted to serve in an international environment. In a way, Florence, the city where I was, which is beautiful, but was a little bit too small for me. I really wanted to be exposed to international relations. And so at that point, the two things came together and diplomacy looked like the natural thing to do.
Thank you. And borrowing on your incredible experiences throughout the years, I want to get to what's been on all of our minds, and that is sort of the precarious geopolitical situation that we seem to be in the world right now, and how important the United States and Italy's relationship has always been, pretty consistently, with few exceptions, throughout history, enabling us to assist each other. I know we had a conversation earlier with a former CIA director, State Department Director Leon Panetta, who said during his entire terms in these positions, he found that there were so few countries that provided so much information, military support, could be really considered a stable and reliable ally than Italy. And so jumping off that, if you can talk a little bit about how you see the relationship between the United States and Italy, particularly in terms of what's going on right now around the world.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Honorable Leon Panetta, a great Italian American, and God, we worked really very close with him. This is an extraordinary relation, and I want to underline it. And is true. I mean, is a relation that doesn't, that is so strong. It doesn't change with change of governments, with change of administrations. This is something that is so strong that it always is there. We will have in 2024, this year, a year of elections everywhere. No matter what happens, this is a relation that is going to be a backbone of the transatlantic relation. And particularly being Italy a founding member of the European Union, we see that Italy can be, thanks to his friendship with the United States, also this bridge, if you want, in the transatlantic relation between Europe and the US. What can I say? It's really so important. You mentioned how challenging times we are living through, and I think this is really where the transatlantic relation comes back as so essential to the well-being of our people in the end. It's chaotic around us, and when chaos is a little bit your daily reality, you really need to go back to basic. And basic are our principles, our values, and these are values that we share completely and fundamentally between Italy and the US. So this is really where our friendship is founded and thrives. It's important, is more important than ever to work with friends. Around us, the international order is a little bit in disorder. And this is when really you need to reach out to your allies first, to your friends first, create that network of partnership that then allows you to go in the world and keep talking to the others too.
Yeah, and so important to have that strength of that bilateral relationship, of course, relationships around the world. But I don't know how many people watching this understand that Italy is part of what they call the 14 Eyes. So Italy and the United States are constantly sharing intelligence information, military operations. Obviously, Italy is a strong member of NATO and has been front and center in standing with the United States and other countries in peacekeeping units. So we're just so grateful. And I think we find some peace and some comfort knowing that this relationship is so strong. And so we're of course happy to hear you reaffirm the Italian position, because that's certainly how we always see it from the United States. So we're very grateful for that. One of the things that we think is a backbone, and I'm going to call on you because you have been in public service, you've been in Senegal, Belgium, Switzerland, ambassador to the United Nations, NATO, and now the United States. One of the things that we've talked an awful lot about in our relationships is how important trade is, fundamental as one of the underpinnings of a good relationship, and sort of keeps those democratic alliances strong. Can you speak to that in light of where you have been, what you have seen, and of course zeroing in on the trade? I think I read the two-way trade between the United States and Italy, I think back to 2019, was over $103 billion. I mean, that's a magnificent relationship, a reciprocal relationship.
Absolutely. It's so important what you're saying, Susan. you know, a political relationship is always accompanied also by a very good and thriving economic relation, and this is what we have. And you mentioned a figure that this was 2019, it was before COVID. What can I tell you is that we are back to those numbers and even more. 2023 was really a record year compared to 2022, which was already a very good year in our trade. So we are back to those numbers and even more. Compared to last year, our trade relation improved of almost 5.5%, which is great. Our export to the US reached record highs, $70 billion, plus 6.6%. The US is our first destination, the first destination for our export outside the European Union. Is more or less 10% of our export, is 50% of our net surplus, which is great. And it's even more if you think that 1/3 of our GDP is really generated by our export. So you see there again another very strong pillar of this bilateral relation that we have.
No, thank you so much. Again, we talk so much about food, which is obviously an important thing from a trade perspective and also a cultural perspective. And it's something that keeps us all close together, whether you're Italian American or not. But also the underpinnings of our trade relationship really goes far beyond food in terms of manufacturing and fuels, et cetera, so that it is a sustainable relationship because we both need each other so much, which is very gratifying. And as I said before,
Absolutely.
it provides some comfort. I did not realize the numbers were growing so magnificently. So thank you for sharing this.
And more. And of course, you said it, food and beverages is really very important. It comes fourth, I think, in, of course, machinery is really, you know, the most important sector. Then you have the fashion, then you have chemicals, then you have food and beverages. It accounts for more than $7 billion a year, which is really very impressive. You have to think that Italy is the second manufacturing powerhouse in Europe. So manufacturing is really a very important sector for us. And we do export all our manufacturing also to the US, from pharma to, you said it, renewable energy, from advanced machinery to aerospace. Of course, the 3F, food, furniture, and fashion. But this gives you an idea of how complete is this trade relation. Really is not only about what we usually think American public likes about Italy. Is much more, and is, you know, is a lot about manufacturing in an innovative way, is about how we are able to really continue to innovate also in manufacturing and other export. All this is about, in the end, the made in Italy, and the made in Italy, which, by the way, is going to be celebrated with a day that was established recently. So we will have a day during the year that we will be dedicated to, and we will celebrate the made in Italy. And made in Italy, in the end, means, yes, beautiful. We all know that it's beautiful. Yes, good. We know that it's good, but it's also very well made. You know, is il bello e ben fatto, beautiful and well made.
Well made. I love it. Well,
yeah.
Again, thank you, and I hope Lucy and I will be invited to the celebration. But before I pass it off to Lucy, I do want to say that I thank you for spending so much time on that, because we are so convinced that trade is such an important part of our relationship. And I thank you for all the work that you have done as ambassador on that front. Lucy?
And may I say also, bella figura, because we Italians just look so good.
Well, we look good because we are Thank you for that. But, I think what helps us a lot is, first of all, the beauty of our country. How we are surrounded by beauty. It's a small country in the end, but with such a concentration of arts and nature and is really so something comes from how Italy is at the very start. And then I think is really our way of living, our traditions. Is all this is a mix, and together with that, this ability to innovate and continue progressing in that. So we're not just how can I say ecstatically looking at the beauty around us, but we try to create even more beauty and well made.
Yes, beautifully put. So far we've talked about your broad experience coming through here on your discussion of security issues, international security issues. We've talked about your trade, and you clearly have a great knowledge of trade, but you've also made your passion, and one of the issues that you work on is the sustainability in food systems. Can you touch on the importance of food sustainability, and why is this a priority for you as ambassador?
Well, it's a little bit linked to what I was saying before. First of all, we need to think at the future, and our resources on our beautiful earth are not, they're not going to last forever. So we need to understand the importance of preserving, producing in a way that is sustainable, that is respectful to the environment. We need to think of all that because our future generation, we hope they will have the same level of life that we have. So this concept of preserving what we have and trying to really respect nature in the way we produce. But then is a lot about also why we are so sensitive to that. It comes really back to Italy, and how Italy is a country that is beautiful, but is not huge. Our natural resources are not so important. They are few. We don't have energy. We don't have a lot of materials. We have to preserve the little that we have. So there is a way in the way we produce that it has always been traditionally very careful in the way we use our resources. And when it comes to food, it comes back also to traditionally how we we are careful in producing with what we have on the territory, trying to use as much as possible products that are near to us, cultivated by us, in a way that preserve our territory. So all this is why, in the end, we are so naturally inclined to put sustainability really at the top of the way we produce our things.
Having traveled extensively through Italy, as has Susan, and I've had the opportunity in almost every region to see agriculture, to see the farming, and then to see how the farm goes to table. It's beautiful because there is such a care for, passion about how the food is grown, how the land is treated, and then how the product is on the Italian kitchen table.
Lucy, it's if I may.
Yes.
Italian food is such a trademark, right? Everyone knows it. But then there is a lot of Italian sounding food, Italian sounding products, things that looks Italian because it's a nice brand to sell, but they're not really Italian. And what makes the difference is really the quality. And what makes the difference in the quality is how you produce things. And I'm thinking of, I don't know, if you want to think about the mozzarella, just to say something that you find everywhere, right? You go in a supermarket here in the US and you find mozzarella, but then you read and it's not exactly Italian mozzarella. And what's the difference? It's not a question of, pride, of nation pride. The difference is how the mozzarella, the Italian mozzarella, is produced in Italy. And when you eat a mozzarella in Italy, you can read on the package exactly where the mozzarella was done, to the point that you can almost go back to the cow that produced the milk to do that mozzarella. This is what makes our way of producing quality food so totally different from any other Italian sounding product. It's very important to us to distinguish what is real and what is in the end fake. And is not about of course it's about competition in trade, but is really about understanding why that food is so different and why it's so good and why hopefully it is also healthy. So all this for us is very important, and we really want as much as possible to fight Italian sounding production. It's really bad.
If I can just interject for a second, Lucy, what you said is so familiar to us, because so many of our members of our coalition and the Italian goods that they produce share the same story and take the same pride in terms of not just the ingredients, although that's exemplary, but also the process from when it leaves the ingredients on the farm or wherever it's from, or the mill, to when we get it. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's an important part of the Italian American story and Italian goods and our members. So thank you.
Thank you. That's a good segue, Ambassador, into an exciting new effort on your part and on the part of the food community in Italy and the astronauts. I had the pleasure and the delight of being invited to your residence for dinner, where you showcased the effort by the Italians now to be candidates for the UNESCO Intangibles. And it was the Italian cuisine that is the candidate. And so at the dinner, you presented this effort to and campaign then, and with us at that dinner were astronauts, because an Italian pilot has led the European launching of the satellite into space. And I remember sitting with the pilot at your table, and he was talking about how not only is he excited about the launch, but he playfully said to me, and in our in the time before we launch, when we're in quarantine, we will be eating the most magnificent Italian cuisine. And it sounded wonderful. But to now, so you launched this great cuisine into space. And now the hope is that the world will see, and that the United Nations will see that Italy is a very serious candidate for Italian cuisine to be part of the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage. Can you talk about that?
Sure. So these are two separate things that are linked, of course. So one is a campaign for, as you said, the UNESCO campaign. And so this is about basically understanding how behind the Italian cuisine there is an heritage that is intangible, because you maybe don't see it. You just see the product of this heritage. Is intangible because it's about all that is behind the Italian cuisine, which is what we were talking about, which is our tradition, is the way we produce, is the way also we are together around our cuisine. These things that, you have the family that join together at the table. is very important, is part of our tradition, how we live together, how we are community together. And it's about the tradition that our food brings is not, I mean, if you eat pasta and then you think of pasta as a today meal, but then you go back really millennials and you find that Etruscan were already doing pasta in a different way. And so it's about really what's behind what we eat that is so important, and is a concept, is a over, how do you say, is a encapsulate, if you want, our tradition and what we are. And this is one thing. And then the idea was for this exceptional launch that happened not even a week ago, and the astronauts are right now in the International Space Station. The idea was to bring our food in space, and it was a very nice idea, and it comes again to certify in a way that our food is healthy. There isn't any other person more than an astronaut that need to eat in a healthy way. They don't have to take a weight because everything is calculated in where they get in when they are in the capsule, in the how do you call it, in this very small place where they have to be for a long time. They need to be healthy, they need to be reactive, they need to be the healthiest people in the world, because they are doing something that is so exceptional. And this comes also to what they eat. And so we thought, could they not only eat in a way that made them the perfect astronaut, but also in a way that they like what they eat. And so together with Giovanni Rana and Barilla, who are among the most known and traditional pasta maker. One is field pasta and the other one is really the pasta Barilla, everyone knows it. We partnered with them to create products that could be a part of the diet of astronauts, and this is what they will eat they ate it together already, and hopefully they will eat it when they are back. Is part of a very balanced diet that the astronauts have to follow.
Well, I think it was just a perfect linking, because at the time the launch was planned, and at the time you are announcing this initiative, we think of UNESCO sites, right? And to think of the intangibles, and to think of what worldwide we recognize as the greatest diet, the Mediterranean diet and the Italian quality. So I was just mesmerized by that coming together of those two projects at the same time.
Yeah, and it's also about, the most traditional Italian products and the most innovative Italian expertise. It's space and food. It looks like two sectors that are very far from each other, but in the end, this is also about us. It's to be at the top really of what is the most advanced research and the most advanced scientific competence, and at the same time being at the top of the most traditional. So the two things go really together. And you mentioned the Mediterranean diet. This is also so important to us. First of all, it comes natural to us to eat in that way, to us, and by the way, also to other countries that with us share the beautiful Mediterranean Sea and the beautiful Mediterranean culture. And this is about basically a healthy diet, a balanced diet. We don't exclude any food. There isn't any food that is per se a bad food. It depends on how you eat it, how much you eat of that. So it's really to be able to balance. And our diet balance carbohydrates, protein, fat, the good fat, and not the bad fat. It's all about that. There was a very, very nice article. I think it was in the Washington Post, and it's about a woman that is now serving in the military, an American that is serving in the military in Italy, in one of the bases. And she has her kids in the local school. And so this is a nice article that explains how their kids are basically, these are small kids in kindergarten, in primary, not even primary, in preschool. They're seated at a round table. The table is, nicely put, and they eat a full meal with a first course, a second course, and the side. And these kids, of course, will want to have that all their life. A nice table.
Right.
You don't sit. You don't eat by running. You don't eat by walking. You just sit and you stay together with the others. And so this is about tradition in all possible ways. It's about community, and it's about how you eat. And how you eat is eating everything without criminalizing any food, without labeling any food.
Yes. Yeah, we've had a lot of discussions on that. We so appreciate you bringing that up, because if we could do another hour with you, we'd love to talk about the benefits of the Mediterranean diet, which have just, particularly most recently, really been verified by scientists throughout the world in terms of this being the most perfect, healthy diet for everyone to pursue. And Lucy and I often have the conversations that when our families came over, they ate the Mediterranean diet was what they ate because it was what they could afford. And it turns out that it was, just so beautifully wonderful for them in terms of health, in terms of, we hadn't no overweight people in my family, because they ate so well. And to your point also, whether they were getting along or not, always sat around the table and had that meal as part of an important tradition, but also something that is so important to all of our lives. So we'd love to continue to talk to you about that, because it is, we read this story too in the Washington Post. Lucy brought it to our attention, and it was just fascinating that our kids are eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on the go. And this is what the Italian young children are eating. It's wonderful.
It's truly wonderful. Susan, I think that we've covered a lot of territory here with the ambassador and her generous time. And so I turn to you for our closing.
Thank you so much. First of all, Ambassador, we are just so grateful for your time, for your attention. First of all, let me just thank you for your lifetime of service. We touched on it, but we could do, 10 more hours in terms of who you have been at the front of so many issues. I think you and I first met during the former Yugoslavian war, discussing, the impact of war on women and, rape as a war crime, which we're talking about now, but you were talking about, I don't know, however, 30 years ago. So your leadership has just been invaluable to generations. So let me just first of all say thank you for that. I want to thank you for what you have done with the American Italian Food Coalition, and how graceful and wonderful and generous you have been to Lucy and I and the rest of our team. We take none of it for granted, as you have been so generous with your time today. Let me just close, Ambassador Zappia, by again thanking you. I know you will remain on the world stage when this time is up. We're grateful that we intersected, because we have learned so much from you. And before I close and say thank you, I want to just let our viewers know something that I take such great pride in, and that is that you were the first Italian female ambassador to the United States, and the first female ambassador from Italy, I believe, to the United Nations. Those are not easy milestones from any country, and so we are just grateful for you to continue to be an example for all of our young women. So grazie mille.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Lucy. You're too generous. Thank you for reminding how important it is to continue thinking that we women need to break all those ceilings one after the other. And I just did a little part on my side. You both gave a lot to this objective of really breaking the ceiling and be there and contribute. It's really very important. Thank you so much for what you do, and thank you for this conversation. I really loved it.
Grateful for your time.
Thank you so much. And before we go, I just want to remind our viewers to stay in touch with us at AIF Coalition at Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. And then you can also find us on LinkedIn. So stay in touch, and then we'll be back with our next chapter very soon. And so we thank you for being at the table with Susan and Lucy. See you next time.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye.